Just want to confirm you can see this slide that I have up.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Wonderful. All right. So I'm going to play for about a minute and then we're going to get started. So have fun. Hello and welcome to our Startup Global Industry Advisory Circle for Agriculture and Sustainability. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Isabel Nolan. I'm the Program Manager for the Startup Women and Startup Global programs at Startup Canada. So to begin, as always, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land on which I am on today, which is located on the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations, also known as Vancouver. And as we are a national nonprofit, I'd also like to acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of all Indigenous peoples across this land. And I encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory that you're residing on today. Today's session is being recorded and we'll be adding it to our Startup Global resource guide along with any resources that are shared during today's session. So a little bit about Startup Canada, if you're not familiar with us. We are a national nonprofit that is a gateway to Canada's entrepreneurial ecosystem. We're here to connect entrepreneurs with the support, community, and tools that they need to build a successful business in Canada and beyond. Since launching in 2012, Startup Canada has grown to support more than 130,000 entrepreneurs annually and an ever-growing community of ecosystem partners from coast to coast to coast. Startup Global is one of Startup Canada's flagship programs that supports entrepreneurs looking to export and expand their businesses internationally. From webinars to export readiness resources and exclusive offerings from our partners, this free annual program will help you build an international market entry strategy and plan. These monthly industry advisory circles will provide you, the attendees, with a deeper understanding of trends and best practices in your sector and leave you with actionable takeaways and resources that you can implement into your business today. So I would like to give a massive thank you to all of our partners, without which their support, we just wouldn't be able to do things like these. So it's very important that we give them that acknowledgement. So a massive thank you to our two co-presenting partners, UPS and Export Development Canada, as well as our program partners, Forum for International Trade Training, also known as FITT, our ecosystem partners, Scotiabank and Startup TNT, and our community partners, GS1, North Forge, Toronto Region Bot, IPIC, and NCFDC. So today's session is on agriculture and sustainability. And firstly, loving to see everyone's cameras coming on. It's really great to see you kind of come on screen and get comfortable with us. And, you know, today's session is informal, conversational. And so if you're comfortable enough to put your screen on, then I encourage you to do so. So I'll take you through what the next sort of 2 hours or so are going to look like. So in a moment, I'm actually going to hand it over to you, the attendees, to do a quick speed introduction of yourselves. So you can either do this by being on camera, or you can do it in the chat as well. If your camera is on, I will assume that you are comfortable to turn your microphone on and introduce who you are. I'm sorry, we're getting a few more people coming into the room as well. So let us know who you are, where you're joining from, maybe a little bit about your business, or what you are hoping to get out of today's session. It really gives myself and the speakers a great idea of who's in the room, how can we best cater to your needs, and really ensure that you're walking away from today's session more knowledgeable in whatever it is that you're looking to learn about. We'll then go on to our entrepreneur expert talks. So we have Alberto here from Plantaform. I'll talk a little bit more about him in a moment. And we also have Jeanette Jackson from ForeSight. And I want to double check, do we have Anna Hunter here yet? Another one of our speakers. We might be waiting on her for a little bit, but that's okay. So they'll be on for about 5 minutes or so. And then we'll go into our panel discussion. So we do have some questions drafted out for our speakers, but I always want to encourage our attendees to ask your own questions, and I will give your questions priority. The questions I have planned out, they're kind of conversation starters. So please feel free to use the raise hand function and ask your question on screen. Or if you're more comfortable, you can ask it in the chat and I can ask on your behalf. The final segment of today's session will be our networking breakout rooms. So assuming you're all working within the agriculture sustainability space, and so this is really an opportunity for you to do some intentional networking with each other. Our speakers will be in the room with you, but it's really for you to get to know each other. Perhaps there's someone in the room that you can offer support to, or maybe you have an ask of wanting introduction to someone, or a resource that you're trying to find, or something like that. So it's very much like an ask offer situation. So we'll do either 2 at 15 minutes or 3 at 10 minutes, depending on how many people we have in the room total. So now that you're all prepped on what to expect for today, I am going to start calling on attendees to introduce themselves. So first person I have here is Masoud. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Yes, hello, my name is Masoud Akshik, and I'm a program manager at St. Clair College, which is in Windsor, Ontario. And the area is known for, besides from automotive, is known for the agriculture. And we have lots of greenhouses around here, and I'm happy to connect and see where the connection will take us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Next, I have Michelle.
Sorry, are you referring to me?
Yes, yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle. So I'm an analyst at VC firm called the 51 Food and Agtech Fund. So we are more so on the investor side, but we invest in sector-specific ventures that operate in the food agriculture. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about some of the trends happening in this space.
Thank you so much for joining, Michelle. Laura.
Thanks, Isabel. So Laura Rigudo, I am with the Forum for International Trade Training, or FITT for short. So as Isabel mentioned, we are a program partner for Startup Canada for both the tour and Startup Global for this year. So I am on the line today because I always learn from entrepreneurs, learn about challenges, learn about trends. We provide international trade training, so that's specific training to help companies grow global. So looking forward to learning from everyone and also sharing any resources that we have, sharing them with you. Perhaps they could help you along your journey.
Thank you so much for joining, Laura. Next up, I have Jeanette Kinston. You're in the chair with headphones. Is it Danat Kinson?
Sorry, that's me. It's Dan Atkinson, I guess. So I own a company called Eden Aeroponics. We manufacture a couple of products that are for growing indoors all year round, vertical gardens, aeroponically run. So we're looking to scale up and hopefully go global. So that'll be interesting if there's anybody we could talk to.
Fantastic. Well, I have a feeling that you'll be able to take some advice from Alberto maybe. But yeah, we can definitely help you with that. Kevin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Kevin. My company is Brilliant Photonics, and we develop horticultural lighting for greenhouses and vertical farms. And we're looking to run some trial testing. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kevin. Next up is Andrew. Oh, Andrew, we're not able to hear you, unfortunately. Do you want me to come back to you while you figure out?
Yeah, come back.
Oh, we can hear you now.
Oh, can you?
Yes.
Awesome. We'll blame time zones and borders. So my name is Andrew. I am a farm kid from Southern Ontario. I'm actually sitting in Dallas right now. So I have a company called Cherry Command. We put sensors where sensors never existed before to give actionable information to farmers. And so our first use cases are putting thermal sensors into combine harvesters to monitor for maintenance and fire risks. And so we're kind of always looking for new test cases. So we have some pilots coming on in Southern Ontario over the next few months and here in Texas. And so here we're just trying to network and meet different groups to see where can we grow from there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining. Tamara, you're up next.
Morning, everyone. I'm Tamara Lockwood. I'm with Infinite Harvest Technologies. We're located in the Niagara region, and what we're doing is all of the agriculture waste along the value chain, let's say greenhouses, all of that organic waste, instead of going into the landfill, we're processing that using insect biodigestion. And then, of course, we upcycle different products, different insect products that can be sold into different categories.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tamara. DM.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mia. Jimmy, Jack, actually my wife's name. So I'm a marketing specialist working for Renso Technology Corporation, a Canadian women-owned company. And we are sourcing the Canadian agricultural product, such as the maple syrup, honey, and ginseng. And we are trying to open the export market for these products from Canada.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining. And Akhil.
Hi everyone, I'm calling in from Ottawa. I run a company called The Box of Life, and what we do is help people and businesses turn their food scraps into healthy soil with the help of vermicomposting, so using earthworms. So we redesign processes and make everything seamless for our clients. I'm here looking to learn more from people. I think I know a few faces here, and also we're in the process of finding investors and advisors to help us grow to the next level.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that hasn't introduced themselves on screen? Oh, yes, JJ.
Well, perfect timing. I just clicked on my, my name is JJ Bay. I help run a company called Hackernest. We're a nonprofit that has done a lot of work on food scarcity, oceans conservation and whatnot. And we've partnered with a few organizations that I've been on the board for, and we're creating a venture studio over the next 6 months to help give scale and impact to cause-related organizations. And I'm here to learn from a bunch of cool people, and I've heard some awesome stuff already, so I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining, JJ. Okay, is there anyone else that'd like to come on screen and introduce themselves? I can give a couple more minutes for that, but I see a few people also introduce themselves as well.
Kathleen here.
Kathleen, yes, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Cameron. I'm out of Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan at the moment. I am a professional agrologist with 3 degrees. I'm president and senior environmental scientist for our companies, Degas Environmental and Sunset Solar Systems. We have been involved, although we've been involved in the whole clean tech, climate tech, ag tech, water tech, biotech industries for 41 years. I actually had to take some time off to help out families. So I'm doing a restart up. And We have proprietary technology for surface water and wastewater remediation specifically, as well as doing other work for livestock producers and processors across Canada, the United States, and elsewhere.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining, Kathleen. All right, is there anyone else before we move on to our next segment that would like to introduce themselves?
Yes. One. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I can only see the names, so I think I saw Ola come up there.
Yes. Okay,
Go ahead.
thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ola Onyeboha. I just moved recently to Niagara Falls. I'm an immigration consultant. I run 7th Laurel Immigration, and 2 years ago, I felt the need to bring my business into a niche service area. So I went into tourism and hospitality. And the aspects that I'm focused on is arts, Greek culture, tourism, which is like a way to, work with immigrants from countries wherein they're looking to, supply our Greek skills to Canada. So currently, I just completed a program at the Niagara Falls Innovation Hub, and I'm looking to work with some delegates to come to Canada in a couple of months to, explore what opportunities and technology and innovation they could tap into to address some seasonalities. Maybe when they are not in season, they can come to Canada, to learn, technologies that they could take back to their own country. So I'm currently working with the hub, and it's so nice to hear Tammy, I think from Infinite Adverse Technologies, because there was a time I visited their center. So yeah, I'm here to learn and to see opportunities, to see how I can connect with people in the food tech and agri, to see how, we could keep the ecosystem, working for everyone globally and even for Canada. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining, Ola. All right, I have Ahmed next.
Yes, I apologize. I'm connecting from outside. I'm in a different time zone at the moment. My name is Ahmed from A77. We're a Gen Z youth-led innovation startup, and I'm calling right now from the Middle East. I'm in Egypt, so I apologize for the noise. I got delayed outside longer than expected, but we're looking to bring innovative solutions to urban spaces. So most of us are designers, whether architectural, interior, urban. We also dabble a bit in operations and innovation consulting. But for us, this is about networking on the agricultural side. We have been wanting to bring agriculture into the urban realms, looking at vertical farming, hydroponic, aquaponic farming, looking at how we can bring those to public spaces or in community spaces, as well as large scale city developments. So we're trying to consult with a few developers and bring that as the standard, where we have agriculture as part of local communities, whether it's residential buildings or small communities, whether in North America or even in the Middle East. So part of why I'm here is trying to find the openness to having vertical farming in the region as well. So here to meet new people and amazing people in the field and learn a bit at the same time. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining, Ahmed. All right, I have Enrique and then Vendia to go next. So Enrique first.
Yeah, thank you, Isabel. So for some of you already know me, starting from Isabel and Alberto. I had the pleasure to be working here with Startup Canada, contributing with my knowledge and expertise as a mentor from the last 3 years. It's been so wonderful to see the success of so many entrepreneurs. I am really passionate about agriculture and sustainability. I'm also an entrepreneur myself, and I'm involved in a great project here in Calgary, Alberta, for feeding livestock, and through our product reduce the methane emissions produced by cows and pigs and lambs and many other cattle that is raised here in Alberta specifically. So I'm here excited to learn from you as well and contribute in the best way possible. And thank you for this opportunity. It's such a great event. Thank you.
Thanks, Enrique. Great. And then finally, I've got Vendia.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Vendia, and we have 2 companies happening. One is called Afrobeat Snacks. We are African-inspired snack company. We manufacture kettle chips, beef jerky, and plantain chips, and we're going to come through with some fruit drinks. So we're looking to export. We're looking to scale our business, get our products in and everywhere. Everybody has to have them. And then the twofold to our company is that we also run a charity called Parents Against Driving High. And that charity is the opposite of, we're kind of the opposite of MAD. And we do a lot of work in the cannabis space. And then the work that we do is we provide, we have one of the big campaigns that we have is called Pass the Key campaign, Project Ozofu. And that campaign, what we do at high consumption events, we provide free taxi or Uber rides so people are not driving home impaired or driving home high. And then some of the proceeds from our snacks goes to that charity so that we're able to continue to do the work.
Incredible. Thank you so much for joining. All
Thank
right,
you.
we've got a really wonderful group of people in the room today. Before we go over to our entrepreneur expert talk with Alberto, I do want to reiterate that for the panel discussion, I have questions drafted out, but I always prefer when we get to none of my questions and we just get right into the attendees' questions. So if you have any questions at all for our speakers after you've learned a little bit more about them and you know what they do, please feel free to use the raise hand function and ask your question on screen, or if you're more comfortable asking it on the chat and I can ask on your behalf. We're really here to serve you today, the attendees, and also if you feel you want something to share with the whole room as well on your experience with something, you feel like you can add something to the conversation, then please do as well. Alrighty, so Alberto, well, before we go into, sorry, I'll just give you a quick introduction of who our speakers are. So we have Alberto, I should have double checked your last name, Aguilar, CEO of Plantaform. And then we have Jeanette Jackson, who is the CEO of ForeSight Canada. So welcome. Alberto, I'm going to invite you to share your entrepreneur journey within this space.
Yes, thanks, Isabel. It's very nice to meet everyone. To give you a quick background on Plantaform, we're essentially an agri-tech startup based in Gatineau, Quebec. We've been in the business now for around 4 years, and we specialize in manufacturing smart indoor gardens using the most water-efficient technology in the world in agriculture, known as aquaponics. I heard someone talk about aeroponics earlier. So similar to aeroponics, we just use around 50% less water than hydroponics, and our plants grow 30% faster. So what we did is we created the Nespresso of indoor gardens. We have this very cool capsule model where you put them into the device, you have some water, you click a button, and the device powered by machine learning is able to grow your vegetables, herbs, tomatoes year-round effortlessly. So we've started commercializing last summer. We spent 3 years developing this product, invested around $2 million on the R&D. But I'm excited to share with you all the support that we got from the government of Canada, the different institutions and partners that allowed our startup to grow and become available, of course, across North America and actually even the Middle East. But we can leave the details to the Q&A later.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alberto. And Jeanette, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you and your journey within working in this space.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. Great to see everyone. It's great that there's supporting organizations and passionate, I'm sure, putting everything on the table, entrepreneurs here at the table as well. A little bit about myself. I am a serial entrepreneur, so I do know what it's like to be working in a garage, drafting patents, trying to raise money, build teams, and find customers, and definitely sympathize, but also I'm here to support, all of you entrepreneurs any way that I can or the ForeSight team can. I've had a few exits. I've had a few learning experiences, so definitely would never look at anything as a failure. It's all about learning. It's not a linear journey, and finding the right network to support you is definitely going to help sort of ease those bumps along the way. I took over ForeSight about 5 years ago. At the time, it was 2 people supporting climate ventures in the TRL 3 to 7 range. Fast forward 5 years, we're really now a national platform that helps not only the supply side of the solutions across many sectors, so ventures, solutions in mining, water, carbon, ag, built environment, transportation, but we're also really invested in figuring out, is Canada serious about adopting these solutions? our Canadian industry inspired enough to make the right purchase decisions? Is government, you know, implementing the right policy and even leveraging their own procurement practices to really help companies thrive and scale in Canada? So I'm a bit of a squeaky wheel right now on that topic. But I've put some links in there. We do support over 500 Canadian clean tech companies a year in different capacities. We're not the only person that you should, you know, or group that you should lean into supports for. There's regional folks that can really help you in certain ways. We tend to be the largest national group, all clean tech all the time. And essentially for us, we define clean tech as helping the world do more with less. So less inputs, less emissions, less water. So very broad definition, and obviously food security, water security, energy security, all closely tied together as we figure out how robust our agriculture sector can be, you know, given some of the effects of climate change and some of the gaps that other countries will face when they're going to be relying on other countries to provide them food as well. So very passionate about this space. Honored to be here and happy to contribute and help any way I can. I did put a special link in here. The Venture to Value Chain report is really interesting. So we've mapped out technology competencies across the agriculture value chain. It's not, this one is one angle. We also have another report coming that has a different angle on ag tech, but take a look and share your thoughts. Sometimes this work is not funded, so it's a very passionate team of data and research folks at ForeSight that do this off the side of their desk, in addition to all the other programming we provide. But take a look and use it to your advantage. And if you want to just continue to engage, LinkedIn and Slack, we've got some open Slack channels as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jeanette. And yeah, thank you for kind of taking us through, you know, what the different types of supports that ForeSight is doing and their vision and mission as well. So attendees, I hope that's kind of giving you a little bit more background knowledge on who our speakers are. You can kind of ruminate on some questions that you might have for them. So like I said, my questions are really as conversation starters. So as soon as something kind of piques your interest or you're like, oh, that's something I'd like to dig into a little bit more, please just use the raise hand function and we can go into more detail for you. But I think a good general question to start off these conversations is talking about the unique challenges that entrepreneurs are facing within this space and starting a business within agriculture, sustainability. So Alberto, kind of, you know, touching on your personal experience in starting a business within this space, what were some of those unique challenges? And then more importantly, how did you overcome them?
I think the number one problem that most startups face, specifically clean tech and agriculture, is funding. I would say a very large percentage of the startups in this industry require some sort of hardware or a lot of like expensive R&D. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we had since day one. As I mentioned, we had to prototype and manufacture and invest over $2 million on making, you know, Plantaform a reality. And so in the beginning stages, to even raise any capital from angel investors, we had to have some sort of MVP to prove the tech. So number one, I would say it's funding. Number two is before you can actually touch any revenue, even though you can get pre-orders or, you know, POs ahead of time, you can't really consider that revenue until you can fulfill the order. So being able to manufacture and make sure that it passes all sort of certifications by Health Canada or even phytosanitary certifications to be able to sell and export the seeds was a second challenge that we had. And then number three was that, you know, you need to understand that it's also a race. There's probably 50 people or more companies out there doing the exact same thing that you're doing, even though as noble as you think your idea is, you're not the only one. So it's kind of a race to get to the end and see if you're able to go to market before any of your competitors or people that are trying to imitate your technology. And, you know, with strategic partnerships and distribution channels to be able to get to that end of the line before anyone else. So I'd say it's a mixture of those three. It's kind of applicable to most startups, but clean tech and agri-tech specifically is very cash intensive to be able to even get to the next stage.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. And I'm glad you touched on funding. We will definitely kind of dig in more to different avenues of funding later in our discussion. And Jeanette, on the side of the supports that ForeSight is providing. How are you supporting entrepreneurs with some of these unique challenges that they're facing?
Yeah, for sure. I do want to comment quickly on funding. I think it's also important that customers are your fastest path to funding in many regards, because if you can prove you have interested customers, then government just comes flowing with the money. It's almost like that, when you see the movie stars, they're making millions on a film, but yet they get all the free stuff and all the gadgets. And I'd say that philosophy tends to permeate how we distribute funds here in Canada. Not that I'm in favor of that, but I do think it's a reality. In terms of support, so when I took over the organization, a lot of the acceleration support was around business model canvas, customer discovery, getting those customer, I guess product market fit, questions and answers, figured out. But where we saw an opportunity for complementary supports is on really making sure that your product and technology roadmap aligns with paying customers and that you have the right team to execute on that. Most often you've got sort of a technology person and a business person, and the needs of training for those two folks are different, but we also noticed that they were often operating in silos. So the CEO is out selling the business and getting some money, and then the tech person's in the corner building something. So how do we bring early on those two critical team members together just to make sure that they're running in the same direction? And what we found when we implemented that program is Lucent Biosciences is a great example. They took the program and in 2 months they raised $1 million, and they did say that it was the work through that program and that alignment when they were presenting to investors and customers that were able to help them overcome those challenges. From there, it's really a lot of other training. So we do pilot program training. Once you've negotiated a pilot, do you have experience in actually executing a successful pilot plan and making sure that pilot represents, again, the needs of paying customers, that you have milestone-based payments and all of those different things factored into your pilot program. From there, it is capital. So we have a network of over 400 private and public funding partners, and we do curated introductions every quarter to those folks through our accelerator programming. So we're making about 250 capital introductions a quarter at this point. And we do have a process to vet, though. There's a risk of putting companies that aren't ready, you got to look at if you haven't seen the Village Capital sort of one pager. It's not perfect, but it's just one of many tools that you can use. It says, look, do you have the right team? Do you have the right vision? Do you have the right scale up strategy? All those things in place. And we want to make sure that when we're putting folks in front of capital, that they are ready and that but we also don't want to slow down, because sometimes people surprise you and they leapfrog. So you can't predict the outcome or manage pace of any startup. And then from there, it's leading to what I sort of said in my introduction, at a macro level, I think there's too many one-to-one relationships in the Canadian ecosystem, one venture selling to one customer, and we're not really looking at the sector holistically and saying, look, we've got these 250 ag tech companies that are trying to do these things. They want to work together, but you've created this weird competitive environment. So how can the demand side help this network of entrepreneurs and ideators and innovators succeed? And what are the mechanisms of capital support or policy that the government can use, to inspire these companies to scale here? So that's really our suite of programming. We do some regional cluster work. We've run innovation challenges in ag. We work with the Ontario and BC industry folks who are looking for solutions. But as CEO, my job is to really think, how are we moving the needle and getting results broadly? And then I have a team of 50 that's really venture support, industry support, research, and all those resources are available to you online or through calls with the team.
Incredible. Yeah, no, it's such a wide range of support that you're providing entrepreneurs, really from square one. And that's so impressive. I think you said 250 or so introductions for investments or to investors per quarter is incredible. So if there's anyone looking for an introduction to an investor, perhaps Jeanette's the best person to ask today. Alberto, I wanted to go back to something that you mentioned in terms of on the funding side of things, you know, initially when you're starting, you have to, you know, have an MVP in order to get money to actually, you know, prove your theory, I guess. Can you talk us through the process of that R&D stage and how you navigated it in terms of, you know, perhaps what funding you got to do that and to make it happen, and then, you know, kind of proving your theory, I guess.
Yeah. To be fair, the first round of funding should come from your own pockets. It's the hard truth. I was fortunate enough that I had an exit before, so I was able to invest part of like my own capital. My partner invested his own capital as well. The challenge that we had is that we started this during COVID. So supply chain was broken. It was very hard to get, you know, components and test and even communicate between us in person. So, you know, a lot of it was getting 3D printers, getting the very basic tools, get your hands dirty, don't make anything perfect. And just do what you can with the cheapest resources. If we were able to prove this technology, which prior to us, it was only NASA that kind of proved that tech in a few of their articles, then we were onto something. And so we actually started in the ugliest prototypes. They were probably the size of your bedroom. And we had like tubs from Walmart, and we put ultrasonic foggers that we bought on AliExpress and stuff that we found on Facebook Marketplace, and just tried to grow plants. As soon as we proved that part, we at least knew that it was worth continuing. So after we proved the technology itself, we were like, okay, great. How do we make this into a system that people can actually use it at home? So that was the next phase. The problem was that at that moment, we're like, oh, like we actually lost all, we burned all of our capital. So we ran out of cash very quickly because prototyping is also very expensive. And so at that point, the only people that would really be sane enough to lend you or give you some cash would be friends and family. So, you know, we refined our pitch. We studied the market. Just like Jeanette mentioned, you have to get early adopters or prove that there's a demand for it. So we did a 3D animation of this theoretical product and put it out there in Facebook groups, social media, and see what the market had to say about it. We actually interviewed as well a couple hundred customers from our competitors to understand what they were complaining about. So anything that is cheap, to figure out if there's some sort of demand for your product, would bring us enough validation, or at least enough ammo to go talk to investors or angel investors in general to want to invest in your startup. So we had our friends and family put in a couple, $10, $5, $2,000, anything that we could raise through a safe, to bring then our conceptual MVP to a real MVP. And as soon as we had a real MVP and we had those videos that we were showing on social media, we decided that we should capitalize on that momentum. So we opened up a WooCommerce website on WordPress and connected it to a Stripe account into our bank account and start taking pre-orders with deposits. So it was kind of it's a long journey, right? Once you start getting people dropping deposits, it showed us that they wanted this product. We had real validation. And then we decided to go approach larger angel investors and start getting checks from at least $100,000. So it's kind of a long, painful journey, even before organizations like ForeSight or the NRC, or, well, Jeanette, correct me if I'm wrong, but even the NRC would not look at us unless we had an MVP or some people really caring about that product, right? Everyone thinks they have a brilliant idea, but it only matters if someone's willing to pay for it. So that product market fit journey was quite painful. I'd say it was around 2 years that we had to keep pushing and testing and prototyping. And once we raised around, I think it was $50,000 in pre-orders. And let me tell you, those pre-orders, we lost money. We put a price that was not realistic. It was way below the cost of manufacturing. I wasn't aware of how much it would cost, but it allowed us to raise, a couple $100,000. And so that's kind of how we got from a conceptual drawing to a real MVP that was not yet even manufactured at scale. But product market fit is the only key to any startup in the world. It's prove that someone's willing to pay for your idea and make your MVP as cheap as possible to prove the tech.
Amazing. Some really great creative ideas, and then also some lessons learned for sure in terms of pricing and all of that. So and kind of to continue on from that, Alberto, I wanted to ask, are there specific regulatory hurdles that you faced when building this product and that you had to ensure that you had in place?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to sell a hardware product, especially when it has electronics involved, it has sensitive databases, right, where you can access information about the user, and you're dealing with food. You had to deal with multiple types of certifications, and that was very expensive from day one, right? We had to get EMC kind of certifications, safety certifications around the product. The plastic that we're using had to be food grade. The seeds that we were using had to have their phytosanitary certifications to be able to be sent from the supplier to us. So there was a lot of research that we had to find out before even deciding to manufacture the product. Agri-food, agriculture, clean tech, these are industries that you're playing around with the safety of a population. So if you're going to decide to get involved with something that's going to feed people, you're now liable for whatever the end user or what can result from the end user. So we got advice, thankfully, from the National Research Council of Canada. We got advice from our local incubator called Invest Ottawa to kind of help us navigate through these routes. And then the best way really that helped us understand this faster was we became friends with our competitors. We became friends with our CEOs, we became friends with other founders, and you'd be surprised. They're not going to keep their doors shut. If they're really if their real intention is to help feed the world of the future or create a cleaner environment, why would they keep their doors shut, right? It's an environment and industry where everyone's very open on supporting each other, in helping each other grow. And it's a big enough market that there's room for everyone to enter. Actually, quite the opposite. There needs to be more competitors and more people out there doing their fair share to contribute to a sustainable future. So luckily enough, a lot of our competitors were very helpful in making us understand what are the hurdles that they came through and what are the certifications that we needed. And so don't be shy. Don't be shy to ask for help. Don't be shy to reach out. There's so many great organizations out there like ForeSight. So if you're not going to ask, you're going to fall behind.
I love that. Yeah, I know it is so important to ask for help, and such a great point. Like there is space for everyone, if everyone, especially within, this sector, everyone's trying to do their best to make a positive impact, and all of that. So I think it's really great to kind of band together really, and help each other out. I want to pause on my questions to give space to anyone who has any questions in the audience. Is there anything that we've talked about that you'd like us to kind of dig more into, or something specific about your company that you're looking to get some advice on or guidance? Are we happy?
I saw a question here. There's a question
okay.
in the chat here. Are Canadian businesses eligible for accelerator programs? So there's different programs across the country. We're open to all Canadian companies and companies that might be interested in moving here to build their businesses here through our startup visa program. We have a very sort of exclusive startup visa program. So 10 companies a year, all clean tech all the time. But yeah, I connect you with the acceleration team if you're interested in learning more. And if you're just still early and you haven't yet incorporated, it's not a problem. We can still provide support. So no stress.
Thanks so much, Jeanette. Tamara, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yes. Alberto, thanks for saying that about, everybody working together. We all have to do our fair share and we have to be able to work together. We just came from Collision and we were showing our solution. And so we were kind of the weird guys because there wasn't a lot of ag tech there. But one of the things we kept saying to everybody is there's space for everybody. We just want to collaborate. Like we're getting visitors from, abroad coming to see like, how can we roll this out? And we just keep trying to help people, right? I would love some tips about how you brought together an industry when there are certain accelerators or incubators or businesses that that are just there trying to say, you know, we're here for your juggler. I mean, that was even said to not us, but somebody else. It's like, we're going to take you to the marketplace. And I'm like, ooh, thank goodness our industry isn't like that. But how did you get everybody together or talk about things? Because in insect agriculture, we have to create a whole new space, and we'd like to start those conversations. So tips to my long question, sorry.
Do you mean like how to get other founders collaborating with you, or are you meaning early adopters, or are you like which
So
part?
I think we're still in the startup space because we're still pre-revenue. We're trying to prove that insect biodigestion actually works and for what type of waste. But we'd like to collaborate with anybody who's in sustainable proteins, or, you know, we have to import eggs, so we can't even scale up. And, you know, it's like, how do we start getting people to come in to build out a whole industry? Like you said, you worked with, you know, friends and founders and competitors and those types of things. So how do you make those acercamientos? How do you make those connections?
I mean, just like you create any kind of friendship, you need to find a commonality, right? If you understand the mission of that startup, then they should understand that you're trying to contribute to that mission. And as long as they don't see you as a direct competitor where you're gonna like pretty much take their clients or like, you know, push them out of the picture, which is not the case really. It's just about building that relationship with them. You're talking to a stranger, right? So a lot of the relationships I build with other founders are I added them on LinkedIn. I engaged a lot with their posts. We met in person at the right trade shows, right? So there's one called, I was there in Las Vegas last year, the AgriTech one on February. Surely someone in this group knows which ones I'm talking about. But there's a big AgriTech trade show in there. So you found all those people in that same show, and you would find them in the after hours, or you go to their booth and chat about it and tell them, hey, I love your idea. I love what you guys are doing. We're doing the exact same thing, a little bit differently. In your case, about the importing, right? So you're talking more about a partner that could benefit from your product, right? And am I right with that? You're trying to see if someone's willing to take you as an early adopter so you can help them fulfill their business better?
Yeah, so specific, I don't want to take all about my specific company, but you know, there's, you know, from the inputs, from the waste, then the outputs we can formulate, you know, with soil amendments, we can formulate with different types of ingredients for pet feed or animal feed. So there's really so much space in there. And so it's the same thing, you know, engage, booth, posts, those types of things. But we would like to be a little bit even more active and say, could we have some sort of new gen collaboration, or who could bring us together? So we're speaking with Vineland Research Center saying, hey, you might be an independent, impartial party that you could bring us together, because really our only competition is for early stage investment in Canada, which we all know there's very little, right? So
yeah, Vineland is great. We actually work with them in Niagara Falls. They have lots of great connections that can partner you up with the right groups. But the same thing goes to any incubator or accelerator that specializes in agri-tech or food sustainability. They have a network already that they're happy to make introductions. I could bet that ForeSight has the exact same network that could help you connect with people in the industry that you could collaborate with. One of the best ways that we found people to want to take us as a risk, which it is a risk, right? To take someone new, to take someone a new company that's trying to change things and shift things. I think everyone likes commodity. But if you're willing to kind of show case studies and tell them like, look, we're even willing to do it for free at first. Just give us the opportunity. You'll see the value in it. Let me attract the right people. As long as everyone's winning among all the parties, it doesn't hurt to do those cold outreaches. But I think with organizations like ForeSight or the NRC, who has already that network around, right, the support for those introductions is a lot easier.
I just was hoping to make a quick comment. Sorry. Hey, Tamara, it's really, I think, I love that you've got this big ambition to do the whole value chain at once, but maybe start, where do you have your wedge in the supply chain, and break it into bite-sized pieces, because it can be a lot. It's been intriguing for me. So we've seen some maturity of some big companies that are doing fusion and things like that. And they're trying to raise 50 to 100 million now. And I'll ask a question like, do you have like a buyer consortium? Like, have you, for something like that, you really need it, right? And it's like, they hadn't. It was like, they're like, oh, that's a good idea, right? So really think about the network you need. It's great you want to advance an ecosystem, but the best way you can do that at scale is to make money. And so how do you get the right people around you to help you make money? And then you can bring all of these other incredible passions to life.
Exactly. And to be clear, I didn't say that I wanted to like conquer the whole world together.
No,
I'm
it's good. It's great.
Seriously, I can't like, instant agriculture, we can't, there's no legislation, there are regulation, no one knows what to do with us in any either inputs or outputs. And it's like, I can't educate everybody on the whole thing and the technology, the platform, the benefits, the margins. Is like, I'm a startup. I only need to do my part. So
the protein supercluster, I don't know if you've talked to them, but
yeah, they don't want to do insects. So if anybody has a way to get into the protein supercluster, we've approached them 3 times and they're like, yeah, you insect guys are too weird. We don't want to work with you. So they didn't say that. Oh my God, I shouldn't say that. I'm being recorded. It did not say that directly to me, but yeah, we're kind of in a no man's land, but we'll figure it out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Laura, I know you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to add, I don't know what stage, companies are at, but when you're at a certain stage and you're looking to collaborate with, international partners, I'm glad that Alberto, you mentioned, going to trade shows, because I find that, when it's an industry specific trade shows, there's all kinds of technology, they just kind of speak your language, and you could find some other exhibitors or visitors that, you could collaborate with in whatever capacity. But I also wanted to mention, if you have a target market in mind, it's good to collaborate. I used to work for a foreign government. I used to work for the Chilean government, and there was a lot of collaboration between Chile and Canada because of, they're both agricultural countries and lots of technology. And so there were often, I was always preparing B2B missions, trying to get, Chilean tech companies together with Canadian technology companies so that they could just talk tech, technology innovation, because you just never, a lot of things start by conversations, but you have to get on their radar to find out about these incoming trade missions. Also, don't forget the Trade Commissioner Service, get on their radar as well. You have industry specialists, so get to know them wherever you're located, both here in Canada, but also in your target market. So again, if you've identified your target market or where you'd like to partner with certain companies, then you can always reach out to the trade commissioners specifically for your industry sector. And then also governments at various levels, like municipal, sometimes provincial. So don't overlook the multiple levels of government as well.
Thank you so much, Laura. Great advice there. Sia, I see you have your hand up if you have a question.
Sorry, just also to contribute there. I know that there are agricultural regions that deal so if you work with I know around Ottawa there's SDG counties, there's an agricultural rep for them specifically, and so if you reach out to these kind of organizations, there'll be one for Durham region as well. When you find the people there, their job is only to figure out what the farmers in their area needs and how to connect them with the right technology or the right startups or the right put in together group infrastructure. SDG counties is focusing on biodigesters and stuff. So once you connect with those people, they'll be super helpful for you as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that recommendation, Sia. I love seeing multiple people coming in and kind of coming together to support one another. These are exactly what these are for. Are there any other questions from our attendees that they'd like the room's advice or guidance on? If not, I can keep going with the questions I have planned.
Yeah, I have and again, I know our position here is we're not really too deep into the agricultural world here, and we're sort of dabbling to figure out if our best approach is to find opportunities to collaborate with different startups and have them come into spaces and advance them, or to try to start from scratch sort of from a new perspective. But from those who are established, I guess it's a two-part question, or one question and one sort of message I kind of want to put out there. The first would be, what would some advice be for those who have at least worked on agriculture in urban spaces, if any at all? If anyone would have any like initial advice to getting that to happen, collaborations, approaches, funding. And the second would be that I just want to put out there is, if anyone is interested, so we're based in Toronto and we're trying to do like urban space work or activations. If anyone is interested in doing any type of temporary outdoor agriculture or farming, or even if it's indoor farming somewhere locally in communities and sourcing to them, we can tie that into part of our work. We're sort of exploring here. We're trying to figure out where we fit in the water, if any at all, and how to take form. So that's just the 2 points, one question and one message I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Amit. Before I point it out to the speakers, I'll let you know there's someone in the chat named Karina who said that they're involved in urban agriculture in Toronto and they're very interested in collaboration. So if you want to go into the chat and make that connection there, Karina's just shared their email. Thank you so much, Karina. But to our speakers, Jeanette and Alberto, any advice here for Ahmed?
I can give a small use case that might be slightly relevant. One of the organizations I helped structure and scale was Free Tree Society. It's based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And what they do is they give free trees or free seedlings and plants away on commemorative days throughout the year. What they ended up creating was a nursery in one of the highest priced areas of the city, because they worked with a real estate holding company that had a land bank and a couple of bungalow lots that they weren't doing anything with. So they converted that to a nursery that's been going on for 10, 15 years. And then what they did after that is they created a lot of educational programming to cultivate that sense of environmental responsibility for both corporates and individuals at a government protected 700-acre spot, again, in the middle of another part of the city. And they began to build their revenue streams so they could fund themselves, along with the sponsorship and fundraising and whatnot that you do as a nonprofit and charity. So they did manage to create a tremendous amount of green space. And they've been able to test a lot of things out because they have this land for almost free. And they've cultivated that empty space into something that's not an eyesore that everybody hates to have. So that's a little bit of perspective on how they kind of thought out of the box in terms of trying to create the visibility and the traction across all their stakeholders in a relatively short time for relatively low or no cost.
Yeah, there are some interesting indicators, like specifically to ag, for example. Obviously, we're talking about urban environments in your case, but like, for example, if you talk to the CEO of YVR, they're looking at what they can do with the green space between runways and things like that. Like, there's just a lot of, like, we're gonna have to get really serious here about where the best place is to grow, high volume food, and I think unique business models. And if you do some sleuthing through the internet, sometimes you can find folks that they may run a large development company or construction company, but they have a soft spot for a few sectors, ag being one. Sometimes it's water, electrification, just depends, right? But those opportunities do exist. But JJ, your example is fantastic.
It's like luck and just throwing yourself out there across every avenue possible, right?
Love that. Thank you so much, JJ, for contributing to that. Ahmed, I hope that answers your question. I can see also in the chat that you're getting a few connections as well. So
Yes.
I can see that happening as well. Do you have any follow questions to that?
No, it's just you mentioned a few names. I'm hoping we're gonna get a copy of this recording after, just because I didn't get to note everything down. But the very helpful, and again, anyone interested or in the industry that's already doing work and they want to showcase it, like we currently have active opportunities and proposals we're making. And I really want to tie in first, it's impact and mission first, and we know the impact of having agriculture in urban spaces. So we want to, even if it's like we're not getting anything, we do want to showcase it as part of that holistic vision that we're doing in the space. So if anyone is interested, I'm gonna leave a phone number as well, in addition to the email that I shared. Please do reach out to me.
Wonderful. Yes, we will be sharing the recording afterwards. So anything you missed, you can watch back. But yeah, great to see all these connections happening in the chat. Any other questions that we can throw out to our speakers, or anything anyone would like to discuss? We have about 15 minutes before we go into our networking breakout rooms. You need a few minutes. I might, because this is part of our Startup Global program, we always like to come at these conversations with the lens of getting into a new market. And, Canada is a fantastic sort of sandbox for testing out your product and for kind of building on it, but then bringing it to a new market is kind of like the next step of expanding your business. And Laura, I see your hand up. Is it in relation to my question, or do you have a separate question you'd like to go to?
No, it's in relation to your question. I wanted to ask, just through a global lens, like just in terms of how did you start? Like, how did you choose target markets? If you've thought of expanding globally, yeah, so that was more the lens that I was bringing to your questions and discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly where I was going with mine as well. What was that process like of choosing your target market, or rather doing that research piece to then decide which markets you'd be going into, and then the sort of journey of getting into that market. Alberto, maybe I'll go to you first. I know you mentioned earlier that you're also either working towards going into the Middle East, or so yeah, maybe you can tell us a little more about that process.
Yeah, so we just literally our shipping arrived yesterday. We just shipped a couple of pallets to Dubai, and we're working right now closely with the Abu Dhabi government as well as some home developers in the UAE. The reason why we're focusing a lot on exporting to that market is that the Middle East is more of a blue ocean market for agriculture. I'm sure everyone has been seeing tons of articles talking about how the GCC is investing so much right now in vertical farming and in renewable energies, in clean tech overall. And it's because there's a growing demand over there, right? In Canada, the need for like sustainable agriculture, yes, still high. We import 90%, I think, of our leafy greens from the US and Mexico. But it's is our pain point as large as it is in the Middle East, and how many solutions are there out there already? So the adoption curve in the Middle East is a lot higher per se. There's more early adopters. There's more willingness to spend on the risk behind the R&D. And so, we've noticed that there's less competitors for us in the GCC. So we're fortunate enough to have a Formula One driver in our cap table with lots of connections over there. So that's helped having key investors in your company who can actually open up doors. But right now, it's about focusing on where can you get the bigger impact faster. What are the lower hanging fruits that you can kind of like grab and slowly start scaling your company? And so exporting for us, it's crucial, right? In Canada, the affordability of buying an indoor garden, not everyone has that luxury. And although we're trying to impact food sustainability by empowering people to grow their own food directly from home, to be able to self-sustain by yourself or a family, you'll probably need, a larger unit, or like Tamara's container farm. If everyone had a container farm in the backyard, you wouldn't be buying your groceries anymore at Farm Boy or IGA or Metro. But that's not the case for everyone. So we're trying to do our fair share on impacting that. But bigger opportunities are exporting, even in the US. Right now, we're having challenges in terms of exporting. Should we go into those details, Isabel, now or later?
No, absolutely. Go for it.
Perfect. So being a product that's fully manufactured in Canada, we have two ends of the problem here. There's two tails to the issue, right? Number one is importing goods from overseas. So although we do our injection molding out of Quebec, we do our assembly in Quebec, a lot of the electronics come from China and India. It is just, you can't get around that. PCB boards cost a fraction of a price there. They're actually able to scale it in China. Certain electronics overall are just cheaper there. And everyone here who we found out were able to supply us those electronics, we figured out that at the end of the day, they were actually importing from China as well. So there's just some things you need to get around with. When COVID hit, as I mentioned earlier, we had a lot of supply chain issues. So we have to make sure that we're supplying our inventory way ahead of time with good amounts that can sustain in case there was another supply chain breakage. And so that's very capital intensive, number one. Number two is once the product is in Canada, well, we're fortunate enough to have lower tariffs because it's a made in Canada product. So these are just goods that allow us to fulfill our product, right? That's one of the benefits of making it in Canada, is that you're not paying that 25% extra in tariffs because the product's being made out overseas. So we've got to save on those tariffs. We manufacture everything here. It is still a little bit more expensive, but it allows us to have control over those additional taxes. Now, when exporting, we have another issue, which is the phytosanitary certifications. So when we sell individual units to the US or the ones that we ship to the UAE, there has to be someone that comes into our warehouses and give us a phytosanitary certifications and all the seeds that are going to be leaving the country. But if I'm doing that individually one by one, it's going to be very expensive, it's going to be very time consuming, and unfortunately, there's no ways around that. So individually, it makes no sense to export one by one for us. So what we ended up doing is we just fill up containers, get one phytosanitary certification for that entire container, and ship it down to our 3PL in the US. So once it's in the US, you can ship locally with no problems. And thanks to obviously NAFTA, there's lots of benefits around how you want to classify your product, but there's lots of tax breaks to be able to move your inventory between Canada all the way down to Mexico. We're actually now in the process as well of opening a second manufacturing facility, ideally in Mexico, to take advantage as well of the NAFTA. Is it still called NAFTA, by the way? Because I know they were renaming that in the last couple of years. I think it's still called NAFTA, but if there's any other terms. But we need to take advantage of these agreements, right? If we were to make our product 100% in China, we would have other issues like, yes, the 25% tariffs, supply chain issues. I remember we had a container last July stuck in the port of, there you go, USMCA. We had a container stuck in the port of Vancouver. Sorry, 2 containers stuck in the port of Vancouver for a month and a half. And that's solely because there was a protest. But you're a victim to it as a startup. And as a startup, time is of the essence because, everyone has a burn rate. So the way we're maneuvering around these issues of extra tariffs and issues with supply chain, work around what exists. The agreements among North America helps a lot. If you can make your product locally in some way, I think it's anything above 51%, it's considered a made in Canada or made in US kind of a product. So our objective is with manufacturing plastics in Canada and soon enough in Mexico is where is the assembly going to happen? If I'm selling in Mexico, I'll assemble it in Mexico. If I'm selling some of them in the US, I'll try to assemble them in the US so I can avoid certain tariffs. And in terms of the Middle East, they're not that strict about tariffs, just solely because they're trying to promote more importation. And in terms of how we navigated those waters, is actually thanks to, I think it was someone in the group mentioned that earlier about the Trade Commissioner Service. But we worked very closely with the TCS in the consulate in Dubai. I think Laura, you were mentioning about the TCS before. Yes, we worked very closely with the Trade Commissioner Services in Dubai, with the Trade Commissioner Services in Kuwait, and they actually helped us make the connection with the buyers, with the distributors. They have such a vast amount of resources that their whole objective is actually to help Canadian companies bring their products to that country. And if you work with CanExport, they have many programs that help you cover, like, say, 50% of the costs of marketing or business development in that country. If you work with MyTax, they have a program called the MEI program that pays $5,000 for you to be able to travel to that country to explore opportunities. And finally, the I think it's EDC, Export Development Canada. They will work with you and actually fund the inventory upfront from a buyer to be able to secure the payments, and they'll actually be the debt collectors to the buyer. So this kind of resources really is what helps, especially early on startup stages like ours, to be able to get our foot into international waters and be able to export our products. So that's kind of like how we navigate around a lot of the challenges that we faced.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for bringing us through that entire journey, Alberto, and some great resources that you shared there as well. I've just put some links in the chat if anyone was interested in learning more about each of those. So Trade Commissioner Service, MyTax, and EDC, all fantastic organizations to be reaching out to and building a relationship with if you're looking to go global. And really interesting of, incredible that you're manufacturing majority in Canada. I think that that's really great. But then looking towards, manufacturing in your specific target markets as well to kind of lower costs a little bit or to avoid those tariffs that you're talking about. ForeSight and IRAP, thank you so much as well. Okay, I have a few people with their hands up, and I'm gonna go in order that I saw them go up, if that's okay. So Karina had their hand up first.
Hi there, can you hear me? Yes. Video. Okay, yep, here I am. Okay. Hi guys, how are you? I'm really happy that I discovered this group. I just want to kind of check in to see if my product might be a good fit so that I can know if I should carry on or not, because my product, although it performs very well, is very low tech. And I just wanted to maybe just run it by you just to make sure that I'm on the right path, because it sounds like everything else is a great fit. So I'll just take a moment just to show you if that's okay. This is what I call my grow box. Oh, I don't know why it went all blurry right now. Can you guys see that clearly, or is it just me?
It might be because your background is blurred, but if you hold it in front of the camera, it might pick it up.
Okay. All right. Let me just see if I can do better here. Okay. It's just so blurry. Wow. Okay. There you go. Okay. Oh. All right. So this is my, went blurry again. Okay. So this is my grow box, and it comes flat packed, and then you just open it out. There's a flap at the bottom that you put down to stabilize everything. And then you literally fill this up with soil, put your seeds down or put down your seedlings, and it starts growing. But what we found in our testing is that it grows better than any other container out there, because we've actually harnessed the natural systems to keep the soil cool, to multiply the roots through air pruning. And science recently found out that plants actually grow better in squares. So we designed this originally to fit inside of a milk crate, so that children in schools would have, a way to grow their own food without digging a garden. And just wondering if that kind of product would fit in well with your accelerator program.
All right, Jeanette, you got a mini pitch there. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, for sure. I mean, we deal. So sometimes the simplest idea is the most valuable idea, right? Like not every technology or solution needs to be complicated. I personally don't vet any of the companies that come into our program anymore, but we do help a lot of companies that do advanced materials, containers, that just help the ecosystem. So definitely apply, and we have an EIR intake committee, and they'll chat with you and figure out. The biggest question I see is like, what application are you going to focus on? Is it community, residential, or commercial? But so that's something you can chat with the team about, but yeah, it seems cute and cool, and you never know.
You never know. Yeah. Okay. But great. That's great. Yeah, and at least I've got my MVP ready, and I am ready to go to market. It's just that I really need to build that proper strategy, and like you said, figure out which market I'm going to enter first, because there are actually a number of applications for my grow box. That is for sure. So
totally. Totally.
where it
The
is.
links are there,
Yep.
and the team will be, I'm sure, quite responsive. So we have ongoing
Okay.
intakes. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you so much, Karina. All right, Sia, you had your hand up next.
Yes. Hi, my question is for Jeanette. Thank you so much for the Venture to Value Chains report. It's super excited to read into that. And I agree, like a lot of international startups that are looking at moving here, maybe their market at home isn't quite applicable or doesn't have the same implications here in the Canadian market. So what areas of the Canadian market are you actually seeing the biggest uptick in adopting these ag tech trends or like new technologies that are emerging? I think you're on mute.
That's a great question. So what we find is sectorally, each province still has their own nuances. So in mining, for example, we're really good at processing in BC, but you know, Sudbury is really strong in electrification of mines, like the equipment and stuff. So I think there's just a recognizing which provinces are focused on large scale production or producing the types of ag sectors that you're interested in. But we do see a lot, Southern Ontario, some really exciting things happening there, at least from a specific lens. Our AgriNext product program manager is actually in Ottawa, so she'll definitely know way more on this topic. We do see a lot in Saskatchewan happening right now as well. Like I'd say a lot of outreach from associations and partners there, you know, tend to be from those regions. BC is a bit finicky right now, but obviously in Abbotsford and beyond, there's some really cool things happening in blueberries and cherries and fruits. We have some really interesting things around water happening in the wine sector, which is ag, obviously up in Kelowna, and they're talking about drought and other considerations. And so it's a bit regional in terms of the type of product that's being made, but the team can definitely banter with you and give you some specifics if you have some areas of interest. But the Ventures to Value Chain, I think, I'm glad you opened it and pinged through. It doesn't necessarily get into specific subsectors, but there's a lot of depth to that information, and I'm happy to share if it helps you, you know, pick some folks. I don't want to be a downer. Generally speaking, large corporates, I feel, are in a bit of a holding pattern. I think there's just broader political things at play, cost of living for their staff. And, you know, obviously there's now these, you know, there's different taxes. There's probably a conservative government coming in, and there's some hedging happening. And I think if we just be honest about that and talk about it, I think it's great. And so really understanding, so something that we are really focused on with the next, you know, modules of our programming is how do we help you get your technologies to cost parity with incumbents? Because that's really how you can displace, you know, how things are happening now. And if you can't, then what's the other value proposition? How are you quantifying that value proposition for those markets? And, you know, ag, the fortunate thing is it's incredibly, it's the most important, one of them. Water and ag and energy for me are the three like really exciting sectors. The downfall is the margins in this sector aren't great. So Farm Credit Canada is a partner of ours, as well as on a few things. So again, how do we help these tier 2 groups lean in with innovation to be more productive, more competitive, more profitable, sustainably? And so your messaging around that and stuff is also something that we can help with as well. But yeah, I don't know if that was a little bit of a round-winded answer, but happy to share with you as much information on some of the regional indicators that we're seeing. I'm just not the best person to give you that info.
That's okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that question, Sia and Janet. And finally, Laura.
Thanks, Isabel. I just listening to everybody, it's amazing because we're talking about, you know, feasibility, we're talking about doing our research and, you know, supply chain issues and, you know, leveraging free trade agreements. And I'm just going crazy. The international trade professional in me is just trying to piece all of this together. But my burning question is actually for Alberto. I just wanted to know, so I know that everybody and, you know, developers, innovators, and I worked in the clean tech sector for a while. I also worked in manufacturing where, you know, companies are busy with the prototypes, and they're producing their products, they're busy manufacturing or creating, innovating. But then that piece to expand to global markets is like, oh yeah, we're just gonna sell our product, or we're just gonna form some kind of, partnership. But in everything that I've learned, you need to take a strategic approach. There are many, many risks involved in either getting your product to another, crossing borders. You mentioned that regulatory piece. So I'm just wondering if you had a champion within your organization that helped you navigate some of these complexities, because there are additional complexities because you're dealing with, a foreign market. So if you had somebody within your organization that helped you, or was it baptism by fire and you just figured it out as you went along? So kind of curious if there was preparation there. And I've heard a bit of everything over the years with companies. So just kind of curious how, it's amazing your first shipment arrived just today, you said. So congrats on that. But I'm just curious how this all happened, because there's a lot here.
It definitely was planned. We didn't just like shoot in the blank and took the risk, because as you mentioned, like if we were to ship, let's say, a container to Dubai and half the products had issues, or the government would stop it at the border because they need X amount of certifications and it would have to be shipped back, like it would be extremely expensive. So rule one is sell in your backyard. Don't focus on exporting until you can sell in your backyard. There has to be customers everywhere. So focus in your town, then focus in your city, then focus in your province, then go to your neighbor province and see how you can sell there. And we did that for the first couple of years. US, we only started like maybe early this year. We actually used the MyTax MEI program and went down to Miami. We went to some like B2B potential clients. We tried to meet with distributors, investors, and then understood, how would it look to start shipping over there. Then, we had some B2C clients. We did some A/B testing on some digital ads, got some sales online. And, we said that before sending a large batch to a distributor, let's try sending them individually to customers and see how we deal with those problems. And we faced those problems. The border did not allow probably 20% of our products, to pass the border, and they were shipped back to our warehouse. And guess what? They came back broken, because they don't care. They're going to open up your product, they're going to put it upside down, they're going to scratch it, and then it gets back, and now you lost money on shipping, you lost another clientele who now is going to be mad because they did not receive their order, and so it's going to become so expensive. So imagine doing that in volume. So then we decided that when that happened is when we decided to go down to Miami. And now the conclusion was, well, we need a 3PL. We need a warehouse. We need to have someone that's available for customer support to deal with those problems. Luckily, in the US, we have the same time zone as in Canada, so we can use our customer support here. And in terms of Dubai, we made it very clear to those early adopters. We're like, listen, anything happens, we are not going to fly to Dubai right now to fix it. So we're going to send some extra parts. You guys are early adopters. If everything works out well, we can talk about the distribution agreement and how you guys can deal with that. But if we were to have to now open up a team in the US, open up a team in Dubai, we don't have the capital for that. No startup has a healthy amount of capital to do that. So I would say exporting is great. Focus on your market first. And then once you're able to get some traction here and have some very strong distribution channels that provide some consistent revenue, then start looking into exporting. And when you're exporting, start slow. Don't go big. It's funny, before this call today, we had a meeting with one of our advisors, and he's like, everyone wants to sell to the big guys. Everyone wants to sell in large amounts, right? Every CPG wants to go to Costco and deal with them. But guess what? Like, most of these companies get shut down, and they will never go to a bigger scale, because if there is a problem, we'll say goodbye to your startup. So the best thing you can do is go to like the smaller clients that you can get. If you're trying to export, start small, smaller quantities, something that you'd be okay losing. You'd be okay losing money with. You'd be okay if those products end up, with angry customers. And then get feedback. Try again in a slightly larger scale, right? And slowly grow from there. If you think that, Canada, I'm not selling that much and I can sell 10x in the US, try to figure out how you can sell 10x in Canada first, and then slowly like grow into the US market until you can find some sort of solid distribution. And then you're allowed to go and invest in a smaller team. Let's say get a BDR, get a sales representative, get a customer service person that can deal with the problems in the US market, and then slowly grow from there. But everyone just keeps dreaming about, I'm going to export to that market. The US is 10x the size of Canada. I'm going to make millions of dollars there. That's not how it works. It's the sad truth, but that's not how it works.
Excellent question. Thank you so much, Laura, for asking that, and also great answer. And you're totally right. You know, you need to ensure that you have all the correct operations in place and, you know, running like a well-oiled machine in your backyard in Canada before you're going to a new market. And also the US is essentially 50 separate markets, you know, it's huge, you know, so you can definitely even like hone it down more for exactly where you want to go to the US, which is typically the number one market that our program participants are looking to export to. So really great advice, Alberto. Thank you so much. Alrighty, so we're going to head into our networking breakout rooms. I highly encourage everyone to stick around for these. Given the number of people that we have in the room right now, I'll do 3 breakout rooms at 10 minutes each. So I'm putting these at random. I'm just making sure that we don't have 2 speakers in the same room. But when you get into your room, introduce yourself to each other, and, you know, start off the conversation with, you know, is there any pain points that someone's going through right now that they're looking to get advice on, or do you have something that you can offer to the room, such as a resource that you find really useful to yourself, or introduction to someone that perhaps someone else would be able to use. So kind of keeping that in mind, it's very much a like ask and offer space, and also just ask for everyone to be cognizant of allowing everyone in the room to have space to talk. Everyone's getting equal opportunity to share, and to be kind and respectful to one another. These rooms aren't recorded, so they are completely private. So make use of these 10 minutes. And when you come back in here, I'll reorganize the rooms and send you back into another one. So I will open up the rooms, and I'll see you back here in about 10 minutes or so.